Hey everyone, Carmen here, Ms. Digital Editor, which again, I've said like 36 times already on video this week. But I am here with Jen Brockman, the director of the Sexual Assault Prevention and Education Center at the University of Kansas.
Yes, got it.
Okay. Not Kansas University. So I'm really excited to talk to you today because you're doing so much amazing work at KU about engaging athletes in sexual assault prevention. And you wrote about it recently for the Ms. blog as part of the Bold Moves series. And the article is linked in the description for the live video for anyone at home. And so in your role at SAPEC, you're pioneering this unique program that really expands sort of, I think, what a lot of people who do this work on campus are used to being given by athletic departments in terms of, you know, the time and energy that we're allowed to have to engage with student athletes. So can you just speak a little bit to what the program looks like and sort of how it all came to be?
So the program itself has taken a long time to come to fruition. And so this isn't just we woke up one day and we're like, you know what we should do? We should work with student athletes. Isn't that a great idea? So in 2015, a sexual assault task force was convened on campus. And one of the 26 recommendations that they made was an academic course to address gender-based violence prevention. So then we fast forward to our office was created in 16. We started on that process. And so we've been working since 2016 to meet this recommendation. So when we came up with the idea for the Gender-Based Violence Prevention Seminar, we wanted it to be accessible for all students, to be something that was beyond the scope of women and gender studies majors or social welfare majors. Like, what was something that was consumable by our general student population if interested, or even if they just wanted to dip their toe in it. So that's why we broke up the seminar into 4 one-credit-hour courses instead of 1 3-hour block. And the courses are designed to go through the socio-ecological model within a social justice framework, and the students take one seminar in the perfect world, one seminar a year for 4 years. So it would go through like freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, maybe some super seniors in there. And so when we had this set and this idea set, then we went to athletics. And we said, we've been doing amazing work with you all. You've given us so much access to your students. We really had this beautiful partnership with them. But what we heard back from our student athletes is they felt like they never had enough time. Because when they were giving us space, it was on Sunday evenings, or I think we did some trainings for our some of our sports at like 6 a.m. before they went to their lifting and practice sessions. And so what the students saw, and they communicated, like, we value the information, it's important, but we just don't have space for it. And that's one of the things that we use as our leverage point with the administration with athletics is this would give time back to the student athletes, and it would value their labor by giving them academic credit for the work we're already asking them to do. So the course wasn't made for student athletes, but we pitched it to athletics and asked them to be the pilot, the champions of the program, to be the first group to mandate their students to go through it every single year. So really to set that standard that they as an organization see the value in this time and effort commitment, and they agreed. Really, it wasn't that much of a fight or a discussion point. It was, great, we won't have to schedule all of these things after hours. We had multiple campus partners fold into it. So the course not only covers us, so sexual or gender-based violence prevention, it also brings in our sexual health, sex positivity. It also brings in our Office of Multicultural Affairs, so on cultural humility, cultural competency, social justice work, and our Gender and Sexuality Diversity Center. So all of those kind of one-off presentations that had historically been given are now folded into this 4-part series curriculum that expands it from about what we'd see on average. A student athlete might get about 7 hours of training throughout a year to now they get 40 plus through this course.
That is so amazing. And, you know, I'm curious too about sort of, so for, 5 years ago, I was the keynote speaker, one of the keynote speakers at this conference. And it was because that year I had worked with the organization Spark in the wake of Steubenville to launch a petition to engage high school athletes more in sexual assault prevention education by mandating that at the administrative level of, I believe it's called the National High School Federation of Athletics, that the coaches would have to go through a training in hopes that, because what we saw in Steubenville was really that the coaches were protecting these boys who had committed these really heinous crimes, and they were knowingly protecting them from, being held accountable, and then sort of doing their best to justify what they had done and take their side. And so we figured that a good entry point to the students would be making sure that coaches understood, like, this is what sexual assault is. This is why it matters that you create environments where that doesn't happen. How has it been on the administrative and faculty and staff side working with athletics, beyond engaging the students, like to get buy-in from sort of the folks really high up that ladder? What did that process look like?
Well, thank you for your labor and the work that you did around that space. That is amazing. And we feel the same spaces that you feel, with that idea of we can work on these individuals who are either experiencing harm or causing harm, but there are 7 billion people in the world. I don't have time for that. Like, I can't hit every individual. So we need to address this systemic and institutional issues and corruption that's working. So when we started our relationship in 2016 with Kansas Athletics, one of the first asks that I made was we need to talk to your staff. We need to talk to your coaching staff. And this is everyone from trainers all the way up to your head coaches. We need to have continuity. Because if we're going to do this amazing work with the students, give them all this information, help them feel supported and validated and heard, and don't give them a soft place to fall. Don't give them a learned, supportive staff to turn to with their newfound questions or answers, we have failed them. We've created a space where they will become then disenfranchised with administration. There's falsity. If we tell them this is valued and honored, and the university line of every university is we take it seriously. Like, if we tell them this, then we don't show it to them, then everything we said is a falsity. Yeah. So the first thing we did that summer was we trained all staff and coaching members of Kansas Athletics in trauma-informed response for professionals. And our theory behind that was we do, have you heard the turn up the frog, the boiling the frog thing?
No.
So it's an old psychological experiment, and it's if you put a frog in boiling hot water, it automatically jumps out. If you put the frog in room temperature water and slowly turn up the heat until it boils, it never leaves. Horrible, PETA, I'm sorry. But that was our element when we trained staff, is we didn't want to start with the first day of, let's talk about sexual violence. This is how everyone is screwing up. This is how you are horrible and need to do better. Not that they were screwing up, but just in a general conversation. Instead, we said, students are going to experience trauma in all forms throughout their time with you. It could be the loss of a parent. It could be an injury that ends their athletics career, or it could be gender-based violence. How can you respond in a way that's centering your student, that's supportive, that gives you tools? So we got buy-in the first year, and then the second year is when we did gender-based violence recognition and response and their mandated reporter requirements. So then again, we trained every returning staff in that. We trained every new staff in both. And this coming year, then we add that too. Like this year, they're doing critical conversations and intervention strategies. So we have that commitment that every year, all 135 folks go through these 90 to 2 hour minute trainings, small groups with us, so that they are right there with where their students are, and they can be that mentor that the students expect them to be.
Awesome. And you mentioned too that it's sort of an everyday person training, that the language is very much so not the women's studies language. And, I think that it can be really challenging for a lot of the students and, faculty and staff and administrators who engage in prevention work to sort of break out of that bubble, because, we're talking to our allies, we're working with our allies, we're all sort of on that wavelength. So what steps do you take to make sure that the work you do is in the quote unquote language of student athletes on campus? Like, what can sort of students watching this video who are doing activism on their campus, or, folks who are doing prevention work even more largely centered around engaging not even just athletes, but maybe, you don't think of athletes as the prototypical ally. You don't think of them as the prototypical, like, who are the men I can reach out to first on my campus? You don't think, I'm going to talk to student athletes first things first about sexual assault. You don't really think that those are going to be the folks who are like, we are excited, we do want to take the course. So I'm really happy to hear that the students, that the athletes on your campus were excited. And I'm curious as to sort of how you also got them there. Like, how did you really get them involved and help them take ownership over this cause?
So it's kind of twofold. So the first space that we borrowed from our partners and allies within the disability community, and we really tried to utilize their philosophy of nothing for us without us. And so knowing that our office was only created by student voices, students protested, they took over the chancellor's office. Like, student activism at KU is why we're here. And so that's our call to action, is because those student voices created us, we are beholden to them. And so no curriculum, no marketing material, no programming comes out of our office that has not been reviewed, created, or influenced by our students.
Oh, amazing.
Which is why our material is so fantastic, because they are way better than I could ever be. and so that is a space where what we put out then has connection and has residency, because it came from the people that it was marketed to. It wasn't marketed down to folks, it was marketed within folks. And so that's the space that we operate there. And then the second of how do we get that buy-in from athletics, where often when you go to student athletes, it feels like a space of, we have to do this because you messed up. We have to do this because there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
So instead, or our values are better than your values kind of situation. So instead what we did is we took the values and missions that are held from athletics, that were held from individual teams, and we built what we do around their values. And the ask that we went in with was, these things, these core values and principles that brought you together as a Jayhawk, as a team member, are reflective of what we're asking from you already. You already have the values that support what we're asking you to engage with. So it's not about doing something new. It's about expanding the space that you've already committed to also include this. And this is how this has those spaces already in your life or in your future, or in the spaces that you want to influence. So really, we tried to bring it to our student athletes and we did that with our fraternities and our sororities and our NGCs and NPHCs as well, of, we're not trying to do anything to change you. We're showing you how the amazing things that you already are can grow and expand and really be robust for your values already.
Awesome. Yeah. And I do that. That is a really good point. That's so often it's like, well, something terrible has happened on campus, so now we're lecturing you, sit down, you're the problem. And so it sounds like this program is also, everyone starts off on this equal footing, you know, like everyone is being given this chance to participate. And I feel like it feels a little bit like the model of a safe space training on a campus, where it's like, if you're interested in being a better ally to LGBTQ people, or having your club or office certified as a safe space for LGBTQ students, just come on down, and you're opting in versus, you know, feeling like no one gave me the opportunity to opt in or out.
Correct. So we definitely do that, and I think it looks from the outside like a universal program, just like that, like this is for everyone. But the reality is, it's a selected and indicated population program. We know that we had a strategic ask for athletics because they have different protective factors and different risk factors. They are selected for a reason. The same way when we work with our other affinity-based organizations or sorority and fraternity life, we can't give them just a universal. We select and indicate those populations for specific reasons based on risk and protective factors. And so it's a combination of both.
Awesome. Well, what sort of impact do you predict it's going to have on the, have you seen an impact yet or already? I know it's very early.
We're 2 weeks in.
It's like it's 2 weeks in and nobody is ever going to experience harm again. We're very confident. But yeah, like do you have sort of any data that shows the impact of the training itself that, you know, sort of helped you create that environment of buy-in?
So the class just launched on the 20th with this academic cycle. So we do have big plans. We're doing assessment for each of the sessions, each of the seminar subgroups. And then we're also doing a cohort tracking. So we will take a fall and a spring cohort because it's different. The folks in fall and spring are different based on their athletics because they're moving from different sports seasons. And then we will track them over 4 years. So in 4 years, we will have some really great cohort data. For our general programming and the work that we're doing, we do know that we've got evidence of statistically significant impact on thoughts and beliefs for our students, whether that's through our consent at KU, which shows statistically significant increase in students' ability to recognize and articulate the elements of consent and increase their willingness to ask for consent, utilize consent throughout sexual engagement. And then through our bystander intervention program, Jayhawks Give a Flock, we have statistics. I know our students
I love
made
that
it.
so much.
I articulate that very carefully every time. But we show that statistical significance on a variety of readiness to help validated scale models, on students understanding the pervasiveness of gender-based violence on campus. And then we've also seen well over a 300% increase in utilization of the university's amnesty policy since we started doing bystander work, which, like any policy, amnesty is that policy that gives students a grace if they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, such as drugs and alcohol, but still act as a social positive, pro-social bystander during that space for help. So we've got those spaces, and then, like I said, we're tracking our cohort as well as all of the sessions for the class.
Awesome. And so, well, now I just have to ask, so for anyone interested in using this as a model, how can they sort of learn more? Is like a framework available for folks to use as a model, or do they just sort of, reach out to your office and see? Because I feel like it's like clearly everyone should be implementing programs like these on their campuses.
I would hope so. We understand it's not a fit for everyone. Like, we get that. It seems and appears to be the right fit for KU. So I've got a session this afternoon from the 1:45 to 3, yada yada, whatever it is. I think I'm over in the Orange, California, something room. I'm in one of the rooms.
Gold Key?
I don't know. You can look it up in your thing. But it's called Out of the Locker Room. And so we'll go through the full spec there. And then, so that's all available with the presentation that you can get at the end. And then some of the real specifics, such as the curriculum, exactly the evidence or the research and assessment tools, like, all you have to do is reach out and I will get you those and we can talk through it. Knowing that this semester, we call it our first intake semester, right? Like, we've got our foundation and our core and things that we think are good, but we also know we're going to reassess and change things based on the feedback from our students and from their experiences. But it's a lot of work, and we understand that not everyone has the luxury, the privilege that we have of having a prevention staff that can dedicate the time to this. So it was really important to us that we create a package or a toolkit at the end of this process that we can hand to other institutions that don't have our privilege of having dedicated prevention folks to help them along their implementation guidance, which includes copies of our MOUs, language we use to market and sell it to administration. So hopefully all of that can help folks on their way if it's something they're interested in.
It's all so amazing. And so my final question is the question I've been asking everyone who comes by the booth this week. You've already made a million bold moves, and I am loving all of them. I'm super excited I'm definitely going to be like checking in 4 years, like, oh, I want to read that cohort data. That is really exciting.
So no one ever, I want to read that cohort data.
I do. I want to read the cohort data. I want to follow them. I feel like it could be like a reality show where there's a couple student athlete main characters, very Degrassi-like. But I've been asking everyone sort of what's next? What's your next bold move? Like, where do you hope this goes after the conference or over the course of the next 4 years? Like, do you hope to expand the program? Sort of, what do you think the next steps are for your office and for this program that you're making possible?
Oh, wow. So many dreams, so many dreams. So really this is that small scale space that we're operating in right now. So the goal for it is that other organizations around campus, be it our interfraternity council, our Panhellenic council, our MGC and NPHC sororities and fraternities, see this and see what is being done by this mandate, and then that's folded into their prevention policies and curriculum, so that new members are now automatically enrolled in the classes, that's part of being a part of this organization, that are thought leaders in their spaces on campus. Doing this as buy-ins from other student organizations, like our Black Student Union or our Student Senate, that these are folded into, it's an expectation as you're part of our organization that you continue your education through these academic classes. And to do that, one of the elements that mattered for us, because we know getting involved in social justice work often has a financial barrier. And so one of the things that we argued the most for, and that I would let people know that is really important, is to get this class coded as a variable credit hour. So students can either take it for credit if they have the financial means to pay for that, or if they don't, but they want to take it, they can opt to take it for 0 credit, which means they take the course at no financial impact to them. Awesome. Now, they don't get that credit towards their degree, but it does show up on their transcript, and they can point to that and to say, I've had this education, But we never wanted a financial hurdle to be something that keeps someone out of it. And so that's also a way we could market it to the organization with a cost benefit ratio analysis of this is accessible to your members because we've taken these steps. So that's our goal, is it's not just this group, but we see so many groups that put this into a practice and procedure for their organization.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's
you.
so amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me this morning. I know not everyone knows, but it's really early here. It's like 8:30 here. So, but yeah, thank you so much. And everyone check out Jen's session, and her Ms. blog will tell you a little more about the program. It's linked in the description of the video. And yeah, and then you can also find out how to reach her and get a copy of that curriculum for your own campus too. Thank you so much. Yeah. Hi guys.
Sorry, I got a little chat.